Flet looks like a dream. Flutter-style interfaces. Python's simplicity. One file, one decorator, and suddenly your CLI tool has a UI that wouldn't embarrass a front-end engineer. For a Python developer who never wanted to learn Dart, never wanted to fight with CSS, never wanted to ship an Electron binary the size of a small movie, Flet feels like the framework that finally got it right. But there's an invisible wall every large Flet project hits. It doesn't appear in the demo. It doesn't appear in the tutorial. It appears the day a real user count shows up, or the day a real network shows up, or the day a real CPU-bound task shows up. And by then, you've already built half your product on a foundation that was never designed to carry it. The problem isn't the framework. Flet is well engineered for what it targets. The problem is the gap between what it was designed for and what most teams try to build with it. And nobody draws that line clearly. Today, the line gets drawn. The trap isn't the framework. The trap is using it for the wrong job. Start with what Flet gets right, because the appeal is real. The first win is abstraction. Flutter is one of the best UI toolkits ever shipped, but it's locked behind Dart, a language most Python developers will never learn for one project. Flet wraps Flutter's rendering engine and exposes it through a Python API. You write Python. Flet talks to Flutter. Flutter talks to Skia. Skia talks to the GPU. You get native speed rendering without ever touching a pubspec.yaml. A complete Flet app fits on a postcard. That's a working desktop app. That's also a working web app. That's also a working mobile app, if you package it right. One codebase, 3 targets, 0 JavaScript. For a backend developer who needs an interface for an internal tool, this is genuinely magical. The second win is the communication model. And this is where you have to pay attention, because everything that goes wrong later starts here. Flet runs an internal server. That server is your Python process. The client, whether it's a desktop window, a browser tab, or a mobile app, is a thin Flutter renderer. When you call page.update, your Python code doesn't redraw anything directly. It serializes the new state, sends it over a WebSocket, and the Flutter client repaints. When a user clicks a button, the click doesn't run handler code locally. It travels back over the WebSocket to your Python process, runs the handler, and waits for the next update. That's the whole model. Server holds state. Client renders. WebSocket in between. That sentence is also the ceiling. Every architectural problem that comes later is already fully described in that one line. For a counter app, this is invisible. For a small dashboard, this is invisible. For a prototype you're showing a stakeholder on Tuesday afternoon, this is invisible. The silent problem is that easy to write doesn't always mean easy to scale. The same architecture that makes Flet feel effortless on day one is the architecture that quietly limits what it can ever become. Most developers never connect the two. They assume scale problems will be solved by buying a bigger server, the way most Python problems eventually get solved. For Flet, that assumption is wrong. The constraint isn't CPU. The constraint is the model itself. 3 forces compound here. Individually, each one is manageable. Together, they form a ceiling most teams don't see until they're already underneath it. Force 1, centralized state. In a normal Flutter app, UI state lives on the client. A toggle flips, the widget rebuilds, nothing leaves the device. In a normal React app, the same thing. State hooks, virtual DOM diff, paint. The network is for data, not for UI. In Flet, UI state lives on the server. Every checkbox, every text field, every hover state, every scroll position that the framework tracks, it's all sitting in your Python process. The client is genuinely a renderer. It has no opinions. It cannot make decisions. It cannot even validate a form field on its own without asking the server first. This is fine when 1 user is connected. It's fine when 10 users are connected. The day a few hundred users connect, every one of them is holding a live session in your Python process's memory. And every interaction any of them performs has to be queued, processed, and responded to by the same interpreter that's also doing your business logic. The server isn't just an API anymore. It's the UI thread for every connected user simultaneously. Force 2, network round trips. The user clicks submit, nothing happens. They click again. Now you have 2 form submissions and a confused user. Trace that backward and the architecture explains itself. Every interaction is a round trip. The click isn't handled locally. It's a WebSocket frame sent to your Python process. Your handler runs, the state update is serialized, the patch travels back, the Flutter client applies it. In pseudocode, the lifecycle of a single click looks roughly like this. On a fast LAN, that whole loop takes maybe 10 milliseconds. On a healthy public internet connection, 20 to 50. On a hotel Wi-Fi, 200 plus. On a flaky mobile network, the loop sometimes doesn't complete at all, and that's exactly where the double-click story starts. The click registers on the user's screen as nothing. They click again. Now the server receives 2 events, Compare that to a native client, where the same click is 0 milliseconds because the handler ran on the same machine that drew the button. A native app feels instant because it is instant. A Flet app feels almost instant on a good day. On a bad day, it feels broken. For a form submission, once a minute, none of this matters. For a real-time chart updating 60 times a second, every frame is a network round trip, and you've turned your local UI into a distributed system whether you wanted one or not. Force 3. Python's single-threaded reality. This is the one that catches people who think they did everything right. The pattern repeats often enough that the surprise on the team's faces stops being a surprise. Flet uses an async event loop. The framework is designed for it. Handlers can be coroutines. Updates are non-blocking. In theory, 1,000 connected users all interacting concurrently should multiplex cleanly through asyncio. And for I/O-bound work, database queries, API calls, file reads, they will. The problem is the moment any handler does CPU work synchronously. A pandas operation, a loop over a large list, a regex on a long string, a JSON parse of a big payload. Anything that doesn't yield control back to the event loop blocks every other user's interaction until it finishes. The async def is a lie of comfort. The body runs synchronously. While it runs, every other connected user's clicks queue up behind it. If that handler takes 800 milliseconds, every other user's UI freezes for 800 milliseconds. With 10 concurrent users, the average wait stacks. With 100, the app is unusable. The fix is to push CPU work off the event loop, run an executor, a worker process, a task queue, but the framework doesn't force you to think about it, and the documentation doesn't put it on the front page. So most Flet code in the wild has at least one of these blockers buried in it, waiting for the day the user count crosses the threshold where it matters. 3 forces. Centralized state pins everything to one process. Network round trips tax every interaction. The single-threaded interpreter punishes any handler that doesn't yield. They don't show up on day 1. They all show up by day 90. There are 3 categories where Flet stops being a good answer. The first is real-time, high-frequency interfaces, trading dashboards, live telemetry, anything that updates dozens or hundreds of times per second. Every update is a server-originated patch traveling over a WebSocket to every connected client. The bandwidth scales with users' times update rate, and the server's serialization cost scales with the size of the state diff. A native client rendering the same data locally pays none of that. It just receives the data feed and redraws. Flet's model means you're paying network cost for every pixel that changes. That math doesn't work past a certain frequency. The second is environments with unstable connectivity, mobile apps in transit, field tooling in remote areas, anything where the network drops for 30 seconds at a time. Because Flet's UI is server-rendered, a dropped connection means a frozen UI. The user can't even see their last input reflected because the local client never owned the state to begin with. Native apps degrade gracefully. You queue actions, you show cached data, you sync when the connection returns. Flet apps just stop. The model assumes the WebSocket is up. When it's not, there is no app. The third is multi-tenant systems with thousands of concurrent sessions. Every connected user holds a session in your Python process. Controls, event handlers, references to widgets, the live state of every form field they've touched. That's tens to hundreds of kilobytes per user, plus the GIL contention, plus the Asyncio scheduler overhead. A single Flet server process saturates somewhere between a few hundred and a few thousand concurrent sessions, depending on the app's complexity. Past that, you need a load balancer with sticky sessions across multiple Python workers. And now your simple Python app is a distributed system with a routing layer, a session affinity problem, and a deployment story that wasn't in the tutorial. If your app lives in any of those 3 categories, Flet isn't a trade-off. Flet is the wrong answer. The first time a Flet app crossed 100 concurrent users under production load, the session memory graph told the story faster than any benchmark would have. That doesn't mean abandon the framework. It means understand the slot it actually fills. Flet is exceptional for internal tools. The user count is bounded. The network is the office LAN. The interactions are mostly forms and tables. The deploy target is the dashboard the ops team uses. Every architectural weakness disappears because none of those constraints apply. You ship in days what would take weeks in React plus Fast API. Flet is exceptional for fast MVPs. The point of an MVP is to validate a hypothesis, not to handle a million users. If the MVP works and you outgrow Flet, that's a luxury problem. You have a real product and a real reason to migrate. Most MVPs never get there, and the ones that do had no business being built in a heavier stack from day one. Flet is exceptional for functional prototypes and simple desktop apps. A utility your team uses, a configuration GUI for a CLI tool, a small data viewer, anything where the alternative was tkinter and a weekend of regret. What Flet is not is the production front end for your global SaaS, your real-time financial tool, or your consumer mobile app. The architecture that makes it brilliant for the first list is exactly what makes it wrong for the second. Architectural advice that fits on one line. If your app needs global scalability, Flet is the bridge, not the destination. Use it to ship the first version. Use it to prove the idea. When the constraints that broke Flet's model become real for your product, that's the signal to migrate, not the signal that you chose wrong. You chose right. You just outgrew the choice. The mistake isn't picking Flet. The mistake is picking Flet and assuming you'll never need anything else. Aesthetics don't replace architecture. A beautiful UI on a model that can't carry the load isn't a product. It's a demo with a countdown clock on it. Knowing where your tool stops working and choosing it anyway for the right job is what separates a programmer from an engineer. If you're looking at a Flet project right now and wondering whether it will hold, the decision is simpler than it looks, but it's not the decision you think it is. The next video is where that comparison happens.